Welcome to the California Maverick, a channel fighting for a free and sane California. All right, Governor Gavin Newsom, the self-proclaimed defender and savior of democracy, is at it again. He's pushing for a special election in November of 2025 this year to bypass California's constitution and undermine voter-approved redistricting rules. I'm going to tell you why it's going to fail and why it's all a bunch of smoke and mirrors and political theater. There's a lot to get into, so let's go.
How far are you willing to go to stop Trump from stealing the midterms?
What's so interesting about how blue that is, that was done by an independent redistricting commission. That's the difference. We tried to play by a higher value system. It's about formal authority. It's also about moral authority. We tried to do both and.
Yeah.
I've long supported independent redistricting. I can't stand these gerrymandered districts. I can't stand the fact that we're trying to find, everything about gerrymandering needs to be addressed nationally.
Yep.
And I now realize that as a promoter to do it at the state level, I thought other states would follow suit because it was the right thing to do. They didn't.
No.
And so we've unilaterally disarmed. Democrats can't just sit there and act holier than thou and watch this democracy completely be degraded. Watch the rule of law degraded. Watch a system of co-equal branches of government completely devastated and rolled back in real time by Trump and Trumpism. So we're going to stand up. That district, likely this state, the blue, will get even darker blue. As we respond to Abbott, we respond to Donald Trump, and we assert ourselves much more aggressively.
Right, so that unhinged rant by Governor Gavin Newsom is referring to the special session called by Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the Texas State Legislature to address redistricting their map. The new map released on July 30th could flip 5 Democrat-held congressional seats to Republicans, targeting districts in Houston, Dallas, and the Rio Grande Valley. First and foremost, without getting too far into the weeds with Texas, because I want to focus on California, there's nothing in Texas state law or their constitution that says they cannot redistrict. It's perfectly within their right as a state to conduct business however they want. They can redistrict whenever they want, however they want. Second, the main purpose of the redistricting is to break up racial gerrymandering. In layman's terms, lumping up a bunch of people in a district based on their skin color or race. So racial segregation, basically. Governor Newsom says in that little excerpt, he's all for an independent committee, an independent council choosing the districts and not politicians or himself. That's fine. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually agree with him. However, he says one thing, but his actions and what he's proposing say another. Let me explain. Proposition 11, approved by the voters in 2008, put in California's constitution that California can only redistrict every 10 years, coinciding with the U.S. Census. Proposition 20 in 2010, approved by the voters of California by 61%, requires a California Citizens Redistricting Commission, the CCRC, to conduct the redrawing of congressional districts. And what was also on the ballot in 2010 was Proposition 27, which was supposed to repeal Proposition 11, but it failed miserably. Over 60% of Californians voted Proposition 27 down. So as much as Governor Newsom wants to talk about defending democracy, what he's proposing is literally circumventing the will of the California voter. And to further address Gavin Newsom and the Democrat hypocrisy and projection, he's constantly talking about how Texas is the most gerrymandered state in the union. Well, newsflash, 40% of Californians are registered Republicans, and right around 40 to 45% voted for the current president. But only 18% California legislators in Sacramento, and even less on the federal level, are Republican. So for argument's sake, I'll give you that Texas is one of the most gerrymandered states in the United States. Fine. But California is probably the worst. You have Republicans grossly underrepresented in California. And Gavin Newsom's little redistricting scheme is going to reduce Republican representation down to 7%. But does Gavin Newsom even care about representing everyone in his state fairly? Of course not. By his own admission, he said he wants to make California even bluer. So he has no room to talk about gerrymandering and Texas redistricting. So now on to the special election, where it gets even worse. The special election in November is meant to repeal Proposition 11, which restricts redistricting to every 10 years, and Proposition 20, which takes redistricting out of the hands of the politicians and gives it to a neutral, nonpartisan council, the CCRC. And in order for those things to take effect by the midterms in 2026, he needs to have the special election in November, have it all done by January and February, so the candidates can fill out and submit their paperwork by January and February, campaign, and be on the ballot by November. And so, of course, he's going to rush it. He's banking on people not showing up and voting for this, not having enough information to make a educated and informed decision. And lastly, what California loves to do is to use confusing ballot language to manipulate and confuse low information voters. So let's look at that proposed ballot language. Adopts temporary congressional district maps if Texas or other states redistrict mid-decade. Declares state policy supporting nonpartisan redistricting commissions nationwide. It goes further and says retains California's Citizens Redistricting Commission and declares state policy supporting use of fair nonpartisan redistricting commissions nationwide. And here's the kicker. This is the most important one. Adopts new California congressional districts passed by legislature for use in congressional elections through 2030. Those two bullet points contradict each other. It's telling you that it's going to let the politicians, the legislature, redraw the maps, and those maps will be used going forward. So it claims it will keep the redistricting committee, but the legislature can decide to redraw the maps basically whenever they want. Do you think they're going to wait for some major breaking redistricting from, say, Alabama or Florida? No, they're going to come up with an excuse. The legislature in Sacramento is going to redraw maps every time there's an upcoming election, and they're going to go with those maps. It's going to make sure they hold their super majority and reduce the already diminished representation of Republicans in California, rendering the commission useless. But don't believe me, Gavin Newsom tells you himself.
I'm talking to members of my legislature. What are our alternatives? We can do a special session. I can call for one today if I chose to. We can then put something on the ballot, and I could call a special election. We can change the Constitution with the consent of the voters, and I think we would win that. I think people understand what's at stake in California. I think we come out in record numbers. I think it would be extraordinary success. That's a clean way of doing it. It'd be a very short window because you got to come back with the maps and you got to change all this and prepare for the ballots that are around the corner next year. Or you can look at other avenues, which we are exploring, which are pathways with the legislature to do urgency clauses with 2/3 of the legislature in both of our houses, to move forward with legislative redistricting in between the constitutional construct, which is every census, the Independent Redistricting Commission does a new map, but it's silent about what happens in between. So it's a novel legal question, and it's being explored. It's time to exercise our formal authority, and we have it. We have a fierce AG. We have a legislature that's focused. We're going to meet the moment.
This also goes to the political theater that he's constantly projecting about and talking about Donald Trump and Republicans doing. We all know that Governor Gavin Newsom wants to run for president in 2028. So this is a double whammy for him. You know he's seen the polls and knows most vote blue no matter who Democrats want their candidates to fight harder and push back against the current president. So this stunt serves as another headline to fight those evil Republicans and the evil orange man. And if it goes through, and I don't think it will, but if it goes through, it will also serve him in the presidency because California always goes blue now. And if that isn't enough, this special election is going to cost the taxpayers of California $250 million in the midst of California's third consecutive year with a budget crisis. This year, we are in a $12 billion to $20 billion budget deficit, and he wants to spend more taxpayer dollars for his own personal political gain. And I just want to state for the record that I hate gerrymandering and or redistricting for political reasons or partisan agendas. Politicians shouldn't choose their voters. The voters choose their politicians. Districts should be drawn up by equal populations, but sometimes that gets muddy. They're supposed to be nonpartisan, which is why I'm all for the CCRC, as long as it is neutral and bipartisan. They should also make sense. Districts should be made up of natural boundaries. Does it keep a city or a county together? Does it keep communities of interest together? Meaning, do all these people go to the same hospital? Do they all go to the same school? Do they all share the same infrastructure and services together? There has to be some kind of logical drawing of the map. It shouldn't be made based on race, ethnicity, or voting patterns. It should make sense. communities should be kept together and it should be equal as far as population. The last thing is that there are civil rights considerations that are put into law by the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which basically means that there should be districts based on race and skin color. So there should be majority Black American districts. There should be a majority Latino American district. And there's two big points with that. Number one, Democrats have been taking advantage of that for years. If it wasn't for these civil rights considerations, Democrats would never get elected. They would never have a majority on the federal level or even in the majority of the states. And that has backfired on them here in California. And it's a hidden agenda that the Democrats here in California and Gavin Newsom don't want to talk about, is that a lot of Latino American voters born here in the United States are leaning rightward. They're shifting to the right, and that scares them. And so that's why they want to redraw the districts so they can break up that Latino vote. And that leads me to my next point. The Supreme Court is reviewing the Voting Rights Act and the Equal Protection Clause. Robinson versus Callen in the state of Louisiana and Alexander versus South Carolina has pushed the racial gerrymandering all the way to the Supreme Court. And they're scheduled to make a decision as early as June or July of next year in 2026. So all this could be for nothing. And the special election, the redistricting, all that could be completely reversed before the midterms. And the final blow to this and why it's going to fail is California gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton. He is planning to file multiple lawsuits against this California redistricting plan of Gavin Newsom. What I don't understand and what baffles me is that people cheer this guy on and think he's doing the right thing. Gavin Newsom is the ultimate gaslighter. He'll lie to your face, basically tell you that the sky is green. As you look at it and know that it's blue, you see that it's blue, and he'll smile, do his little hand movements, and tell you it's green. And people believe it. This entire redistricting scheme is a perfect example. He's sitting there talking about doing the right thing and standing up and defending democracy when he's literally telling you he wants to undermine the California state constitution and what the voters approved 10 and 13 years ago. And then he'll sit there and smile and tell you that he's totally against politicians drawing maps and redistricting, and he's all for nonpartisan committees and councils doing the drawing of the district maps, while simultaneously trying to sneak in a special election that will allow politicians in Sacramento and himself to draw the maps and get rid of and undermine the nonpartisan committee. And then in some weird and twisted, diluted worldview, he's defending democracy. If you like this video, leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.